little different than all the rest. I'm quite old-fashioned, wear a hat, sometimes play chess. And when I'm out, I'm looking for that vintage fling.
Hello lovelies, welcome back to the baby announcement birth story video. It only took me 3 weeks to actually film this, but the newborn trenches are awful. I love my baby girl with all my heart, but the sleepless nights definitely are rough, and so forgive me if it took me extremely long to film this, but all I want to do is sleep and spend time with my baby. And so I felt like that was more important than filming a video for YouTube, but I'm here now. And so I'm going to, get right into my birth story. Alright, so Ellie Jean Suarez was born on October 16th, 2025. Prior to that, I started to have contractions that Tuesday morning, I guess it would have been. What day would have that been? No, it would have been on the 15th. So I woke up with contractions on the 15th, which was a Wednesday. I started to have contractions around 5:40, 5:30 a.m. that morning, and I literally could not sleep, but the contractions were very much like period pain level contractions, actually kind of weaker than a period cramps. And I honestly, they were like super irregular, so there was no need to go into the hospital, but I did alert my doula and my partner and my mother that, all this was going on, to just stay on call in case something did happen. The rest of the day, I went about my day. I, did what I normally do. I watched some Netflix. I was watching the Monster Egg Gain story. So, yeah. And then I was supposed to pick up Edwin from work around 6. I would have been leaving at 5:40 to make sure that I got there by 6. And I was just doing my normal thing. The contractions were still super irregular at this point. They were still like 10 to 20 minutes apart. And so, as I was getting ready to leave, my cat Kaze, which is actually my brother's cat, was just like meowing a ton. And I was like, didn't really know why he was meowing so much. I let him into my room. He was like cuddling, and then I went to go grab my phone to leave the house, and my water broke. And that was around 5:30-ish, somewhere in there. And at first I was like, did my water break? Because I was like, did I just pee myself? Or, because it wasn't like a gush like you see in the movies. It was very much a slow trickle, but my whole pants were wet. And so I was like, no, if I peed myself, it would not have been this much, and it wouldn't have just been not gushing, but continuing to trickle without me being able to control and stop it. And so I was like, I think my water just broke. So I called my partner to let him know. They did not answer right away, so I called their mom, and their mom answered and was able to get a hold of my partner. I called my doctor to let them know, and then I also texted my doula to let her know. And then I called my mom because my mom and my dad were at the gym, and obviously I needed someone to take me to the hospital. I mean, it was only 5 minutes up the road, so likely I could have, called an ambulance or something if I ultimately had to, but I knew that they were going to be home very shortly, so I did not panic or anything. And and all my stuff was literally put in the car. Like, I think that, maybe not that week. I think it was put in the car actually the week before. But everything was already put in the car, so we didn't have to worry on that front. And honestly, I thought I was going to be late because I was originally scheduled to be induced that Monday on the 20th. Yeah. And that would have meant that she would have been born on the 21st. But baby girl had different plans, and I was so happy that she came on time because my due date was the 17th and she literally came on the 16th. And the whole time, like, her dad was like saying, hey, like, jokingly, but like, hey, you need to come on my days off. And literally she came on his day off, and literally my water broke right before I was about to go pick him up from work. So just like the timing of everything just felt very divine intervention. Like, there's no other way of explaining that. It was just like perfect timing. And the fact that my cat was meowing at me and being all cuddly, and then right before my water broke, it was just like, it was like he knew. But anyways, my mom gets home. She takes me to the hospital. Somehow my partner beats us to the hospital even though we're only 5 minutes away, and they're like 15-20 minutes away from the hospital. So just kind of a bit funny that they ended up beating us. But we got to the hospital, we got checked in. Nothing was really that interesting. The check-in was a little slow in my opinion, but not extremely slow. Like, you know, ER level slow. We were probably waiting for, I want to say at least an hour. We got there around 6, and like my whole labor and delivery I think was like 14 hours total of us being, like, from the point my water broke to when I had her, it was about 14 hours. But anyways, so it might have been shorter than that. It might have been like anywhere from 12 to 14. If it broke at 5:40 p.m. the day before, and then we had her at 6:03 in the next morning. I don't know, you do the math. But yes, so we got to triage. They had to check that my water did indeed break, and like I told them that I had tested positive for strep B, so they had to run my antibiotics and stuff like that, which is why the doctor like wanted me there as soon as my water broke, because like they have to start that whole process very soon to make sure that she doesn't breathe any of that bacteria in when she's being birthed. And so we're there, they're hooking up the contraction monitor and the fetal heart rate monitor. Baby girl kept doing flips and somersaults in there because they could not get a proper reading on her heart rate because she just kept moving, and so they constantly had to keep reattaching it, and that was a bit annoying. But while we were there, like, the contractions felt like they were getting more normal, but according to the doctor, like, and nurses and all, my contractions actually never became normal up to the point of birth. Like, they were still very sporadic. Either that or the contraction reader was just not reading it properly, which could very well be the case because I felt like they were every 5 to 10 minutes. But, you know, I was also very out of it and not super focused on the time. But my partner was there and in triage with me. I told my mom to just wait until we got to, you know, the like actual labor and delivery room. And I did text my doula at this point because she told me not to call until I was like 5 to 6 centimeters dilated, but she was responding up until about 9 p.m. That's very important to the story, but yeah, she was still responding to us. So we're in triage, and like every time I'm having a contraction, my partner is like showing me like a funny meme or or like a funny video just to like get me through the pain, because the pain was a bit more unbearable than I thought it would be. And I was very much, I went in there headstrong, did not want an epidural, said I will get an epidural if it's like super bad, but I don't want one if that can be avoided. Because I also have scoliosis, so I was like kind of worried about that too. And you read a lot of things online, and like I was just like, I felt like I had to have her 100% naturally in order to feel like I was a good mom, and I guess to prove that I was a good mom. Like I thought like by doing it the old-fashioned way, no pain medication and all that, like not that I was better than anyone, but in my head, like, I guess I was, hypothetically better than others who couldn't do it, which isn't like how I felt, but like it's a weird thing trying to understand why I was like so headstrong about that. I felt like, I guess people would have judged me if I didn't, have her 100% naturally without an epidural. Like, I really thought that people were going to be upset with me, specifically my one cousin, who I won't name, but like she wasn't that way. But like, because she had had her baby naturally, and like, that's what my sister also wanted for like when she has kids, like I just felt like I had to do that. And so anyways, the pain was like really, really severe and around 4 or 5 centimeters dilated. Like I was just a mess. Like I puked once. I was like, no, I don't want the epidural. I'm fine. And then like my partner was like really like worried about me, because the first time I puked, we did not have a bag or anything, so it literally got all on my side, like all on that side of the bed. Like it was awful. And like it wasn't like I could move. Like from the minute I got there, I was lying down because they had to measure my contractions, and they couldn't put me on the mobile version until, later on. But yeah, so that didn't go so well. And then I ended up puking 2 more times back to back. And at that point, her heart rate was dropping. It was no longer safe to like continue like this. And yeah, I was anxious for her safety and well-being, and for my safety and well-being. So my partner looks at me and is like, no one's going to judge you. I'm not going to think worse of you for getting an epidural. In fact, I will think higher of you because you did what was best for you and the baby. And I was just like, yeah, I want drugs. So they didn't give me an epidural right away. My partner asked them to give me medication, and they ended up getting me Statol. I'll put the name here because I don't think I'm saying it right. But they gave me that, and I had the most wicked, crazy hallucination / dream of just like these cows in a field, and they were mowing the grass by eating the grass, and they were just going up and down, back and forth like a lawnmower, just eating this grass across this field. And honestly, I just wanted to stay in that dream forever. I was like, this is so nice. So very nice. And like, I could still feel the contractions, but I was so high off my rocker that like, yes, I processed it as pain, and I would be like bearing down in pain, but like for the most part I was Zen mode, like very, very happy, very Good. After that, oh, and I forgot to mention, when they checked to see if my water broke, they said, yes, my water did indeed break, and there was meconium in the like the amniotic fluid that, had broke or whatever, or I don't know how to phrase that, but there was meconium in it, and so because of that, they had to have a pediatrician on board to make sure that she wasn't going to breathe that in, and to make sure that she was okay and nothing was wrong. So then we get transferred at that point to labor and delivery, and I will pick up the story from there later because I have to go pick up my partner. Alright, we're back. We got the VTech baby monitor, so if she happens to wake up, I can go deal with her. But hi, okay, returning to our story. So we got to labor and delivery, and they had to transfer me from the one bed that I was in triage in to the other bed, and they were like, take it slow, because I was still hyped up on all those drugs, seeing the cows and all. And at that point, like, the I feel like that's not how it's said, but the drugs that I was on started to wear off, and I started to kind of feel a bit, not more pain, more just like not as drowsy, and so that's how I knew, oh crap, the medication's about to wear off. And I was like, can we get this epidural going, because I'm not trying to be in pain. I also asked that they do a cervical check at that point, because I was like, I have to alert my doula for when I'm like 4 to 5 centimeters. Apparently it wasn't 4 to 5 centimeters that I was supposed to alert her, it was more like 5 to 6, which I could have sworn she said 4 to 5, but okay. And at this point it's like, I think 9 o'clock. So we spent like 2 hours in triage, which is kind of a long time, but they also were really trying to get the contractions consistent before transferring me, but because my water did break and all that, and like I had to be like literally, like they were just waiting on a room is what they told us back in triage, was like I belong in a labor and delivery room, but they were just waiting on a room to become available, because Holy Cross Hospital, which is where I had my baby, that is one of the busiest hospitals for giving birth in like, I think all of Maryland. So quite a busy hospital, but we got to labor and delivery, and I asked them to do the epidural and do a cervical check to see how many centimeters dilated I was. At that point I was, I think 5 centimeters, 5 or 6, I can't quite remember, but it was around there. And so I was like, Edwin, like call her doula, let her know what's going on. She answered and she's like, oh no, I need to know when you're like 6 centimeters dilated, not whatever it was. So I was like, so we were like, okay. And so she was like, keep me posted. And that was the last time, well, not the last time we heard from her, but the last time we heard from her consistently was around 9 o'clock at night, right when we got into labor and delivery. I also told Edwin to tell my mom to come up to labor and delivery, because I was allowed up to 2 people in the room plus my doula. And so I said, until the doula arrives, I just want you to be here for moral support, and to like, you and Edwin to help out, because Edwin had been up quite early. So had my mom. They both worked that day, and so they were both tired, and I was like, it would just be easier if you guys switch off and whatnot, so that everybody can get a little bit of rest. And so I went over my birth plan with the I guess, nurse on call. I think it was, her name was, I really liked her. Wendy, started with a W. I think it was Wendy. I could be very wrong, and I really hope that I jotted her name down, because honestly, in the end, she helped deliver this baby more than the doctor actually did. The doctor came in, like, I'll get to that part later, but the doctor came in basically as the baby was already crowning. Like, the baby was pretty much already out by the time the doctor got there. But, yes. So, where was I? So we get ready for the epidural. They have me, like, sit up. I tell the anesthesiologist, hey, I have scoliosis, and they're like, okay. So they had me curve my back a little bit to figure out where was the center of my back, like, as best as possible. Because my spine, I don't have the double S, I have the C curve, and it's a 35-degree curvature of my spine. So I was a little bit nervous, but honestly, the IV in my hand hurt more than the epidural itself, and that might have been because I was already on the one drug, so that might have kind of assisted in the pain. But really, I did not even, it felt like a pinch, and then I felt nothing. And honestly, it just, like, felt like a shot. Like, it was really not that bad. They did the epidural and whatnot. That went pretty smoothly, and then within, like, 30 minutes, both my legs were numb. All this was numb. Like, I could feel my top half, but kind of not really. And part of my birth plan, like, I just wanted a very zen, like, noise-free, like, just not overly stimulated experience, because I have autism, and I was like, I don't want to be overstimulated in a room where I probably am already going to be overstimulated. So I had them dim the lights. Like, they only had one light on, and it was, like, super dim. And then I had my mom set up my essential oils. We had lavender and lemon, you know, wafting through the room. Edwin didn't really like that very much, but kept quiet about it because, you know, not, like, he didn't want to get me upset or anything, but he has, like, really bad allergies and sinuses and stuff, so the overpowering smells were not doing him justice, but he was fine. And then at that point, the doctor came in to tell me, just to, like, stop in and tell me, hey, like, I think it was the doctor. Oh, Daisy. Daisy was the name of my nurse. Wendy. Where did I get Wendy from? Daisy. That was the name of my nurse. Sorry, I'm rambling a bit, but that's kind of what this whole video is. So anyways, the doctor or Daisy, someone comes in and tells me, hey, like with an epidural, like, when you start to feel like you have to push and, like, you feel, like, pressure down there and it feels like you have to take a massive poop, like, call us in, because that's probably you going into active labor and needing to start pushing. So I just, like, stayed in bed, obviously, because you can't move if you have an epidural. I stayed in bed. I was very much just, like, napping and, like, in my comfort spot. I didn't really have any crazy dreams after that. Like, I was just thinking of, my baby's gonna be here soon, my baby's gonna be here soon. Like, I feel good, I feel empowered, I can do this. And I just, like, kind of drifted off to sleep, although it was very hard because, like, I basically had to use the bed rails to kind of turn from one side to the other. And nobody was instructing me of, like, hey, you need to turn, you need to turn. I just knew, like, every 30 minutes or so, like, I needed to switch my position. Just when I started to feel a bit uncomfortable is when I did it. I also had a push button where every hour I could administer another dose of the epidural. So I pressed that whenever my legs would start to have feeling back in them. I would be like, nope, and press the button, and that was that. So, by this point, it's like, you know, time is really passing. I'm like asleep. Edwin's asleep. My mom is kind of asleep. I don't know. I don't think she slept, but I gave everybody in the room permission to sleep because I was like, we're going to be here a while. I'm just relaxing. Baby ain't coming quite yet. So everybody just like take a nap, and once I feel like I need to push, I'll get the doctor in, I'll wake everybody up, it'll be fine. And so, they, I think when they checked my cervix or whatever, like, again, right around the time where I felt like I needed to push again, at that point I was 10 centimeters dilated. This was around, I think, no, they checked my cervix again around 3 a.m. That's what happened. Sorry, it's like kind of a blur because, you know, drugs, and also this was 3 weeks ago. But they checked my cervix around 3 a.m. again because I asked them to. And they said, okay, you're 6 centimeters dilated. So we called and we called and we called and we called, and my mom must have called like 17 different times. Edwin tried calling. They tried calling from my phone. The doula was not answering, like, at all. And then finally, I guess my mom got a hold of her, and she was like, okay, I'm on the road, I'm leaving now. And we're like, okay, cool. Because, like, you know, 6 centimeters, this could go by really fast or really slow. I was, like, already 6 centimeters at, like, 3 in the morning. And so then, I guess, around 5:30ish, which this part is like quite insanity to me because hours had already gone by. It's now 5 in the morning, 5:30. The doula should have been there, so I was like, hey mom, can you check to see if the doula is like almost here or is here and needs assistance getting up here? Like, I don't know what's going on. And it was kind of freaking me out because we were cutting it close, you know, and like we hadn't gotten any communication from her since 3 a.m. when she said she was on her way. And so, and I'm not going to blast her name because I feel like that would be kind of crappy of me, especially if something did happen, but we have still yet to ever hear a word from her. And I was just like, I don't really care. I'm done with her. Like, this is really crappy of her to do, to just like bail on us, and to be like super flaky, especially in a line of work where being present and communicating is very much important when you're bringing in a new life. And I just felt like that was, there's a lot of things I could say, but I was mad, but I did not hate how I delivered, if that makes sense. Like, I was mad at her, but her not being there did not affect my delivery at all. Like, I actually think her not being there might have actually been a better thing because I got to have my mom in the room with me, and I got to have my partner in the room with me. My partner would have been there regardless, but I got to have my mom because I wasn't originally going to have her since, you know, we had a doula. So I was like, I don't really need all these people in the room. I don't want to be overwhelmed by a vast amount of people telling me all sorts of things. So I actually think it was better that she wasn't in the room with us. But yeah, she never replied. Here it is 5 in the morning and she still hasn't replied. Around 5:30, because like around 5 is when I started to feel like I had to, like I was having that pushing, like I have pressure feeling like I had to poo. And so I was like, well, let me make sure that it's consistent before I get a doctor in here. And I'm like very surprised that I knew my body so well, because I was like, finally when it was like 5:30, I called in the nurse and I was like, hey, like, I think I'm ready to push. And she was like, okay, let me check your cervix. She checks, 10 centimeters dilated. My mom's like, what? And she's like, yeah, 10 centimeters, like, she's ready to push. They're ready to push. And I'm just like, all right, let's do this thing. So, my mom goes and wakes up Edwin, because I tell her to wake up Edwin. And she's like, it's go time. And he's like, all right, let's go. Let's do this thing. And, like, they have me, like, bearing down into the bed. They're holding one person's holding one leg, one person's holding the other leg. I'm pushing every time I have a contraction, and like holding it, like pushing for 10 seconds, holding it, and then releasing. And did that quite a few times. I did not count how many times I pushed, because I feel like it was definitely over 10. I was just focused on the baby. Then they brought in the mirror so I could see, like, the baby crowning and all. And it was very interesting. It was a very beautiful moment. But they bring in the birthing mirror. They also bring in this, like, birthing bar that I hold and, like, do this number into, and while they hold my feet. Or, I don't remember. I think my feet go on the bar. Yeah, I push against the bar. So they're not holding. I just, like, have my feet there. I'm pushing this way. My feet are, like, up like that. And I'm, like, bearing into it. And I can see her. And, like, then she's crowning. The doctor's still not in the room. And I'm, like, kind of freaking out. Finally, like, the doctor's, like, scrubbing up, because I'm like, I feel like she's going to come soon. And so the doctor's, like, you know, scrubbing up, getting ready. The pediatrician is scrubbing up and getting ready, because we had to have a pediatrician in the room because of, like, the meconium and testing positive for strep B. So they don't want her breathing that in, obviously. And it's, like, really cutting it to the wire. At this point, I'm like, the doula is not coming. Like, I've completely given up on that. And so I'm, like, pushing. I can see her crowning. Part of my birth plan was to be able to see her in the mirror and to be able to, like, touch the top of her head as, like, right before I push her out. I'm, like, touching her head and I'm, like, crying, because I'm, like, thinking, I'm a first-time mom. I'm thinking that I have to push not only the head, but everything else out. And I didn't realize that once you push the head out, like, everything naturally just comes shooting out. Like, it's not like you have to continuously push this whole body out. You just have to push the head out, and then everything else comes. So I start crying, because I'm like, I can't do this. Like, well, it wasn't that I said I couldn't do it. I was just like, there's so much more, and she's not even out yet. She keeps going back in. Like, she was, like, turtling, where her head would poke out a little bit and then go back in, and then poke out and then go back in. And like, it was just kind of stressful. And so I'm crying, then Edwin starts crying, my mom starts crying, and they're like, we can't start crying right now. She's not even out. So let's do, like, 1 or 2 more pushes. So then I finally, with this last push her out. All of a sudden, like, the lights go on, and they had warned me that the lights might go on once she comes, in case, like, people have to rush in. And that's exactly what happened. Lights go on, people are rushing in. I'm like, what the hell is going on? I'm crying. Everything's happening, like, literally so fast. Somehow my body doesn't go into shock. I'm just like, what the hell is going on? Like, and then they placed the baby on my chest, and I'm like crying, holding her. She's crying, and like I don't even realize what's going on. And then it like a minute or two goes by. Like it's 6:03. She was born at 6:03, and like about 2 minutes go by, and like then they're like, okay, we can cut the cord. And I think that Edwin got to cut the full cord. I don't know, because the cord, when she came out, it was loose, but it was wrapped around her head 3 times and then had a huge knot in it. And they were like, this must have happened within like the last week to 2 weeks, because there would be like no way that she would have survived with it being in a knot like that for so long. And so yeah, she is out. She's beautiful. We're all crying. Edwin didn't expect to like have that immediate connection, because like, you know, like he just thought that he wouldn't have that immediate connection with her, and immediately he just like bonded so hard and was just like, I love this girl with every fiber of me. Like, this is my daughter. And like it was just so surreal, like being able to, you know, have that moment with my mom, with Edwin, everybody in the room, and like it was honestly a beautiful moment. So yes, Ellie Jean was born on October 16th at 6:03 a.m. She was born at 6 pounds 0.8 ounces, and she measured 19.5 centimeters, I believe it was. Or no, 20.5 centimeters. Yes, that's what it was. And yeah, she was gorgeous. Very calm baby when she was born. She didn't cry very much at the hospital. That all kind of changed a few days later. And that first night was really, really hard. That first night being home, because once we were home, like she wanted to eat every 30 minutes, and I did not sleep an ounce that night because I was just constantly up feeding her. But I'm very, very grateful that I have my baby girl, that we have our baby girl, and it's just honestly crazy to think that a year ago we didn't even know about her, and now she's here in this big, scary, beautiful world. And yeah, I'm just so grateful, so lucky that I get to be a mom, because I was told I wasn't supposed to have kids. I was told that if I did have kids, I would miscarry, or that they would be born incredibly small. She was born small. She was born gestationally small for her age. But she was born full term, and she was only in preemies for like 2.5 weeks. She's still in some of her preemie clothes, but she's starting to fit into newborns. She, at her 2-week appointment, already gained a pound and 3 ounces, which is almost unheard of. She was just supposed to gain her birth weight back, but she gained a pound and 3 ounces more. So just very surprised by that. Last time I weighed her, she was 7 pounds 1 ounce, which is close to what I was as a baby. She's gaining weight every day. She's really becoming her own person and starting to really connect. And she smiles. She does cry a lot more now than she did when she was just first born. But she's still very calm about a lot of things. And it sounds like she's going to wake up soon. But yeah, I just love her so much. And I can't wait to see the person she turns into and who she becomes. That's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed the chat. Leave a comment down below about your own birth story, any questions you might have, just whatever you want to chat about. I am usually able to answer that a lot quicker than I am when it comes to like actually filming videos. So yeah, if you want to chat, just messages are always open. All right, I love you guys. Bye.